Hi. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hi, Annie. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Rita. Yay. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. If there's any gentlemen here, I apologize. So, I am going to discuss what I would say would be my strongest argument personally, but I'm going to back it up with science, right? We're going to back it up with the facts. And this is the strongest argument for not only the psychiatric psychology community and the medical community as a whole to start as far as their atonement for the great sins that have been committed in the name of the now debunked, highly debunked false memory syndrome. And then at the end, I'll give a little bit of personal conjecture, so to speak. But this is it for me. Now, I'm still going to come on and I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to make that very clear. That's not going to stop because there's so many things to talk about. But I kind of had like a click moment today. Maybe I've had it before. I don't know. But the click moment for me was that technology has changed, right? Especially in medicine, diagnostic technology. And I'm going to show you guys some studies, and I'm going to read from some of David McGowan's book, Program to Kill. And I'm going to read from a digital copy so you guys can see it yourselves. Because everything that I've told you guys that I get from his book, it's sourced. So it's fine. You guys can see it for yourselves. He's an incredible author. But the studies now that prove that our brains are built with a protective mechanism, that's so beautiful, right? So these people did this to harm the innocence of something that is built in to protect us. So I would say that that's actually demonic, quite frankly. Evil, sociopathic, sadist. It's going to get a little rough today because I think that this is kind of the cut and dry argument for everything. We're still going to discuss the board members. We're still going to do this and that. I'm not going to have any Kinsey for you today because, well, buckle up, okay? Because I'm going to show you guys all kinds of stuff. So, first, let's pull up some of the current science because I do think that this is important. These studies aren't necessarily really talked about, and I don't know how these people can still run around and act like this is a thing. Seriously. You're frauds. You're frauds. I don't care how much money was spent going to school. I don't care how much money you spent on books. It's unfortunate, but I don't care. I'm going to show you why I don't care because it's not just me. And it's not. I might be like the only like random chick right now coming on a streaming service screaming about it because I can't understand why people are not saying something. And I can't. I have an idea, but I can't. So let's pull up a recent study. And I love this because this is recent science. From the Science Times, September 25th, 2020. MRI imaging reveals evidence of dissociative symptoms linked to childhood trauma. Coping mechanisms after experiencing trauma may include dissociative symptoms. What are those symptoms? Emotional numbness, amnesia, or an out-of-body experience. The lingering symptoms may result in mental dysfunction and affect overall cognition. The team analyzed the MRI results of 65 women who experienced abuse as children and have PTSD. The scans revealed how connections between different parts of the brain were associated with those symptoms. There you go. That's science right there. That was coming up on only 3 years ago. And there's other studies dating back to 2001 from David McGowan cites it. It was a study in Australia. And I'm going to show you guys one of the most infamous cases. And I have some Aussie peeps out here. So if you guys know of any other ones, please let me know, because it's very fascinating to me, as you might have guessed. But this was the biggest one that I could find, where this woman in court, because the science is out there now. Imagine that. So when she transitioned or split into her other personalities that her brain created to protect herself, she wasn't called crazy. And she had other witnesses. Imagine that. So let's pull that up. I'm not going to read the whole article. It's quite extensive, but I do think that it is important to look at her. Where is she? Here she is. Okay, so just so you guys know, multiple personality disorder, people can say that it's interchangeable with multiple personality disorder. So they kind of go back and forth. But it is the concept of, again, serious trauma, generally at a young age, causing the brain to split and create a protective wall so that the young person, and this happens to adults as well, but the young person is able to move forward with their life. But it's still there. There is a protective mechanism, but it's still there. I think that that is a beautiful thing, that our brains can do that. So let me pull her up really quick. Where'd you go, little lady? There she is. Okay. So, dissociative identity disorder. The woman who created 2,500 personalities to survive. And look at the date of this article. This is September 6th, 2019. And guess what? She was allowed to let 6 of her personalities testify against her father, because they were legitimate separate identities that her brain, and this has been proven through MRI imaging over and over and over again, that our brains are so complex. And our body's natural instinct is to protect us, especially when we are children. She was not dismissed. She was not gaslit. She was not called crazy. And here it says, as a child, she was repeatedly raped and tortured by her father in what Australian police say is one of the worst child abuse cases in the country. And I'm not going to sit here and read all of that. There is her scumbag father. And he is a scumbag. She was denied medical care for her injuries from beatings and abuse. She has irreparable damage to her eyesight, to her jaw, to her gastric system, and to her private parts. And they have required extensive surgeries, including a colostomy. So I'm not going to read any more of that, but I would like to ask everybody a question. Imagine your father doing something so horrific to you for such a long time, so violently, that you have to get a colostomy bag. I deal with patients in the ICU where they have to have a colostomy, and it's for, it's for a number of reasons. But I could not imagine the shame, because my patients feel shame and I never want them to, but they do. And I think that I understand because I think that I would. I think it's natural. But imagine the shame of having to get a colostomy because of your dad doing something like that. And if the court was going to call you crazy and say that you were a liar and that you were making it up. Except, again, good on Australia because they didn't. So, what happened with Australia? Because I know that things have been kind of weird over there for the past couple of years, but it seems like they were on the right track as far as the science for a while. So good on ya. Now, I was discussing Miss Margaret Singer, right? Because that's where all of this started. And it is where all of this started. Was an individual talking about how Margaret Singer is their hero. And I mean, how dare I? How dare I speak ill of the late Margaret Singer? Well, I would like to ask, because I found a hell of a lawsuit today. I mean, it's just beautiful. So I would like to ask, if this is your hero, and you deny the satanic panic, and you talk about the false memory syndrome as if it was some sort of, random sort of aberration, please tell me your thoughts on this. Please justify this to me. Because Margaret Singer, she ain't it. But that's okay, because I'm going to show you. I'm going to actually show you a couple of things about Margaret Singer. Because this whole idea that, she's some sort of hero is a joke. It's a joke. She worked with pedophiles. She worked with criminals. And she also helped pedophiles and criminals get away. That's what Margaret Singer did. That's what Jolly West did. That's what Martin Orne did. That's what Richard Offshee did. The Fraids. Elizabeth Loftus. I'm going to keep saying their names. Those are the names that I'm going to say in those sentences where I call them pedophiles and criminals because you know what? We've tiptoed around all of this long enough. And I'm talking in general. In general. Let's get a little bit of history, though, about Miss Margaret Singer because all of this is presented by certain people as I've stated before, that Margaret Singer and Jolly West were whistleblowers about mind control and hypnosis because it's what the commies were doing. And, they figured this out by just sitting back and observing the Korean POWs at the time. And I want to make something very clear because this is all started within a very specific community, right? All of these lovely people here in my chat, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm so glad that you guys are here because I know that Tony's on, so thank you. I am well aware that there is the Scientology PR machine, right? Where they just completely dog people who are outspoken against Scientology. Now, I have a lot of suspicion that these folks weren't as outspoken as one might think, but I'm not going to get into that today. However, a refutation to another comment, because mine have still not been responded to. The answers were given via, Scientology websites attacking Margaret Singer and Jolly West and the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. So again, let's all critically think. Let's look these things up elsewhere, okay? Because these lawsuits are real. Margaret Singer wasn't a hero. Margaret Singer was complicit in crimes against humanity and children. But again, let's get a little bit of history before I just completely digress, because at some point I am absolutely going to completely digress. I'm just going to make everybody aware. So this is from the Constantine Report, and I have this saved as a PDF on my computer. I apologize. I can post the link if you guys would like it. It is a 33-page article about the False Memory Syndrome Foundation with a nice little history of each of the board members. And right here, Dr. Margaret Singer, and this notes, she did not have a background in ritual abuse. What was her background? What were her and Jolly doing? Their common interest, as it states right here, was behavior modification. Studying repatriated prisoners of war returning from the Korean War at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research in Maryland from 1952 to 1958. Now, there's a lot of discussion right here in regards to Miss Singer's involvement, and I will say involvement because we'll come back to it, about Jonestown, because I have a lot of feelings about Jonestown that, quite frankly, I'm not really willing to talk about right now. And there's a reason for that, because Jonestown was my first. I always say that Jim Jones will hold a special place in my heart because he was my first. That was the first time that I got on the internet when I was really young and looked up true crime, whatever. Wasn't the dark web back then. At least, I didn't know about it. But that was my first. So I am very well versed in Jim Jones and the People's Temple. So we're not going to go there. But I'm just saying, isn't it kind of weird that all these False Memory Syndrome Foundation board members just happen to be in these really controversial places in American history? Does no one else find that curious? I do. And I think that we should be allowed to speculate. And I don't think that that speculation is concerning. And that comment is directed specifically to another ex-Scientology author who has yet to reply to me, who states that, Tom O'Neill's speculation about Jolly West's tenure is quote-unquote concerning. I think it's concerning that from what's been stated, an entire career has been platformed by two of the most notorious members of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. But I think that that's why these people aren't getting back to me. So it is what it is. And if someone wants to, drop a link to these people's YouTubes, because some people know what I'm talking about, you can go ahead. I'm not going to, though, because, people can go look it up for themselves, quite frankly. I don't want to bring any traffic to their page. People can go look at their page. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying I'm not going to share their page. And that's my personal decision. So I want to bring up another article. This is from Psychology Today. This was written in 2001. And again, cited from Dave McGowan's Program to Kill. And this is Deidre Barrett. She is a psychologist, and this is her kind of talking about dissociation. So let me pull this up. There we go. Okay. So you can see Psychology Today. Now, many such subjects reported a history of child abuse. Although some remembered this directly, some had been told by others that they had been battered, and one suspected it was because of multiple childhood bone fractures of dubious origins. Other dissociators who had not been abused had suffered childhood traumas such as prolonged, painful medical conditions and, before the age of 10, experienced the death of their parents. Some dissociators say that they have developed the ability to not think about unpleasant things, a skill that they grow to use more and more frequently and subconsciously. They seem to evolve this adaptive talent for coping to ease the pain and difficulty of their early lives. I think that that makes perfect sense. Now, not all of this is quoted in Dave McGowan's book, but I think that this is really important right here. Dissociators don't have the same variety of sexual imagery that their fantasizer counterparts report. In fact, they are often disturbed by even mild sexual fantasies. So, that whole satanic panic narrative, where these little kids are just making this up, or that therapists are just planting it in their brains. Again, I can't say this enough. None of this has aged well. None of it. And yet, it's complete silence from the psychology community and the psychiatry community and the cult recovery community. Why? Why? I would like to know why. I think I know why, but I am trying to extend some grace where, quite frankly, I don't think that it deserves to be extended, but I'm trying. I'm just sort of losing patience. But who am I? I have less than 200 people, and I'm so happy that you guys are here. I love you guys so much, and it's great, but I'm just saying, who am I? Y'all got thousands of followers, so I must not have anything relevant to say, but that's okay. Let's get back on track here really quick, because I told you guys I am going to digress. So now I've shown you guys thus far, I hope so, that McGowan's work checks out. It just does. And I'm going to read some of this because this is the purpose of his book, and it can't be understated. And I am going to try to show you guys. Hopefully I can pull it up. That way I don't lose where I'm at in the online copy. I don't know if this will work, actually, because I'm going to mirror the screen. So let's not do that. Somebody remind me I'm at page 14. And let me pull it up, because I want to show you why this book. I respect him so much. That's the reason. And people still want to sit there and talk bad about him and say that he's a crazy conspiracy theorist and this and that. And you know what? That's okay. I don't care, because I don't talk about anything from his book that I cannot verify myself. So, right here. There is little question that someone's innate ability to dissociate can be greatly enhanced, although not necessarily by ethical means. The most severe of the dissociative disorders, MPD or DID, is in almost all cases created by psychological trauma so severe that the traumatic episodes cannot be integrated into the experiences of the core personality. By far, the most common cause of MPD or multiple personality disorder is early childhood trauma, usually, but not always, resulting from horrific abuse by a parent or other adult guardian. Dr. Frank Putnam noted in 1989 that he was struck by the quality of extreme sadism that is reported by most MPD victims. Many multiples have told me of being sexually abused by groups of people, of being forced into prostitution by family members, or of being offered as sexual enticement to their mother's boyfriends. So, a little bit later in that chapter is that Psychology Today article. We're talking about severe trauma, severe, violent. Because when I do really get into McMartin and I do really get into Presidio, I'm going to read the medical records. And they're really, really rough. I haven't talked about anything, honestly, compared to that. They're rough. And I'm also going to talk about one of the internet pedophile rings that a victim reached out to me and showed me her court case and said that this man who wrote this book is the only person that's ever discussed her case in public. I'm going to talk about that ring and how horrific that was, because he was brave enough to talk about it. And is it kind of weird that, he got a really fast acting cancer after this book came out? I don't really know. Let's see. I think my chat just dipped out, so I am sorry, guys. Hopefully I'm still streaming. That kind of sucks. I don't know why it kicked me out, but okay. Oh, is that me? Hold on, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to kind of figure it out. I don't want it to kick me out. Okay. Well, whoops. Let me see. And that doesn't work. All right, so hopefully we're still running. Let's peek. Now, I told you guys that I wanted to bring up the lawsuit that I found. And I'm going to. But I do want to make sure that my stream is still running, because that would be kind of embarrassing, wouldn't it? So, oh, yep, I'm still live. Cool. Cool beans. So if you guys are in the chat, I can't see you, and I'm so sorry. So, let me pull this up. Where'd you go, Singer? Where'd you go? Okay. So there was a big lawsuit with a old singer. And really, it was her and Richard Offshe. Those two. They got a brass set on them. Because this lawsuit is just completely beyond me. So. Now, this is all in an amicus brief, okay? And again, I'm not going to sit here and read legal documents. However, this is a really nice breakdown, because Margaret Sanger just thought that she could sue the American Psychological Association. Yeah? So did Offshe. And why is that, Miss Margaret? I'm curious. The methodology of Dr. Singer and this Dr. Benson, not looking into him today, has been repudiated by the scientific community. The hypotheses advanced by Singer were, quote unquote, little more than uninformed speculation based on skewed data, and that the coercive persuasion theory is not a meaningful scientific concept. Ladies and gentlemen, do you hear me? Isn't that like what she kind of made her whole career off of with Jolly when they were running the anti-cult circuit? Preaching the great truths of the false memory syndrome. Yeah? The coercive persuasion theory. So since everybody wants to go off of science and act like they're the arbiters of truth, well, this went to court. And it was not a meaningful scientific concept. Now, let me see if I can get this little ad in the corner to go away, because that's annoying. So, Margaret Sanger and Offshe sued the APA in 1992 for defamation, frauds, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy. The case was dismissed by the court. Why? Because they said it was a dispute over the application of the First Amendment to a public debate over academic and professional matters. Wow. Wow. Oh, yeah, she's a girl boss, all right. She sure is. And Offshe and Singer had to pay 80 grand in attorney's fees. Under California's SLAPP suit law, which penalizes those who harass others for exercising their First Amendment rights. How's that for Miss Singer? Can anybody tell me? Why isn't that discussed? Why isn't that talked about? That Margaret Sanger was literally trying to sue people because they were going to make her look bad. Wow. Imagine that. So is Offshe. But I'm not here to talk about him today. But isn't that just amazing? I want to see if I can get this chat to open back up, guys, because I know that there was a couple of you there. So bear with me for like 2 seconds and let's see if they sent me something. Maybe someone tried to hack my stuff because that's been happening a lot lately. So, where'd you go with my big head? Let's see. Yep, that's what I would like to do. I'd like to sign in. See if I reload. Uh-oh. Oh, it's back. Yay! Okay. If you guys are still here, the chat is back. I'm always so scared to hit the refresh because I don't know if it's going to like crash the stream because, obviously I don't know what I'm doing. So let's see if there was anything else about Singer that, oh, yes, okay, there is. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit more because even though it's not talked about, and Margaret Singer is the hero, girl boss, hey, there's a lot of people who have a lot of thoughts. They're just not very popular and they don't get talked about. I wonder why. Could it be government funding? Maybe. Maybe. But I'm going to show you guys because, like I said, there's an amicus brief on this. So, she's not who she says she is or who anybody else says that she is. So here they're talking about it again. And it mentions Mrs. Loftus, Ghislaine's expert witness. Yeah? Look at who else they filed a suit towards. The American Sociological Association. And they alleged racketeering activity connected with an effort to destroy Afshi and Singer's ability to function as professionals and to testify as expert witnesses in certain trials. Wow. Like I said, they've got a brass set. They really, really do. Now, the complaint noted that both Singer and Afshi derived a substantial portion of income from consultations and work as expert witnesses, and discussed how Afshi was greatly emotionally distressed in light of how his potentially jeopardized credibility could affect his clients. Imagine that. I would probably be pretty worried too, quite frankly, if I was running around the world doing junk science and ruining people's lives and gaslighting kids, because I'm sorry. I don't care if you demand proof. I've given a lot of proof. But the notion that these people were not acting with ill intent, again, the first circular that I found, thank God, of the little printout from Pamela Frade, where her rationalization that the FMSF is not in the business of protecting pedophiles because of her graying hairline, and they look nice, and because of a lie detector test that they know in their hearts they shouldn't have to take. Is this a logical explanation to anybody? Like, seriously, I would like to know. I would like to know. Because it doesn't make sense to me. It really shouldn't make sense to anybody. Unless, I'm just asking, unless maybe you have ill intent in your heart. I don't know. But I kind of lean that way when people refuse to talk about it, or they only want to talk about certain parts of these individuals' tenures. Because I would argue that these people were never good. They've never contributed anything to society except for harm. Truly, I truly believe that. I went on the Deep Share last night, and I'm sorry, guys, I didn't know that he released his stuff a couple of days later. So as soon as the episode airs, I will absolutely share the link. But when I go on other shows where there's people who are way smarter than me, way better researchers, and I talk about this stuff, they laugh at me Not in a mean way, but they just laugh and they look at me dumbfounded. They can't believe that there are people out here making these claims and calling me a liar and calling me dangerous, and that I'm feeding into some sort of QAnon narrative. And it's okay. It's fine. It is what it is, right? But I'm just saying, it's not just me. There's people much smarter than me, much smarter than you. I'm not talking to the people in my chat. You know exactly who I'm talking to. Much smarter than you. A couple of you out there, actually. One would argue. Who know that this whole notion that these people are heroes is a complete farce. It is. It's you guys picking and choosing the narrative that you would like people to see. And I'm not a fan of that because I personally think that we get gaslit, period, by everybody all the time. Nonstop. Nonstop. Let me pull this up. Let me make sure that this is working. Lady Veritas, somebody told me on a show I was on like a week and a half ago that I should be called Dangerous Dana. So that's so funny that you said that. Oh, hi, Danny. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, Dangerous Dana merch immediately. You guys are so funny. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you're here. So, I showed you guys that Dave's book says, here it comes. I'm going to digress. But it is what it is. That is for the survivors. And for anyone who's not familiar with Dave's work, he did get cancer pretty quickly after he came out with this book. And it took his life very quickly. And for anyone who's very well versed in Operation Paperclip and all of the experiments that have been done in the name of national security, and if you're familiar with the Church Committee, that was a public examination of what they would allow us to see that the CIA was working on, as well as the Department of Defense and the DIA. Oh yeah, there's other IAs out there, trust me. One of them was a cancer that they could control the speed of. I'm not kidding. This is in government testimony. So maybe he got a CIA cancer. Because like I said, this goes completely against the narrative that has been beaten to our heads for decades. I've had victims reach out from multiple cases in there that I had never heard of before I opened that book. And you really got to dig for some of this stuff, but I'm grateful that he did. I truly am. And, he made a comment in his book when he was talking about, the splitting of the mind and, how G.H. Estabrooks was well aware that trauma and splitting the mind could be very beneficial in relation to hypnosis. Around the same time that Jolly and Margaret Sanger were working with repatriated soldiers. And he said, because he does write very eloquently, he's also a very funny man. Some of his work is still online. Especially if you like Operation Paperclip, he's got some really good stuff on there. But he said, and it'll always stick with me, the human brain, that wonderfully resilient organ. How true is that? How beautiful is that? that our minds, I don't care if you think that, like, the Big Bang, whatever, evolved from monkeys, it doesn't matter. Science is out there. Our minds are created to protect us. It's amazing. It's truly, it boggles the mind, literally and figuratively. So my opinion is that people who feed into this narrative or profit off of this narrative, especially when it comes to children, and they refuse to talk about the absolute stain and disgrace that the False Memory Syndrome Foundation and its board members have been on our history, I have no respect for you at all. Because I think that these people, it is a perversion and wickedness that I can't even express, because that child's mind is protecting it. We can't recreate that. We can't recreate the human brain. They've been trying to figure out the human brain for God knows how long, and they can't get it right. Look at Elon with Neuralink. He killed all the monkeys, okay? I'm not going to rant about Elon, but I'm just saying our brains are so complex. And it's almost like the brain of a child knows to protect that baby. And these people just saw an opportunity to destroy the one thing that that child had innately, physiologically, to protect them. So who the hell are they supposed to trust? Not you. Not you. These people should not be allowed anywhere near children, quite frankly. And they shouldn't be allowed to act like they're advocates for children or that they're helping children. Because I don't make this stuff about me, right? I hope that I don't. I tend to digress or rant a little bit here and there, but I get a sip of coffee. And maybe a hit of my vape. Hi guys, I see you in the chat. Thank you for being here. I've never, ever spoken about this before. But this has happened to me, including the whole false memory thing. Okay? And I've never made it about me. Ever. I hope that I haven't. But this happened to me. And the only person in my life, to this day, that believes me is my dad. And, well, it was a group of my family members that did this to me multiple times. And after the repressed memory, not the false memory, came back. Because I thought I was crazy. And you know what it was? And it was so weird, I'll never forget it. It was a smell. It was just the weirdest random smell. And then all of a sudden, all of these things just started coming back. And sorry, guys, I felt like I was going crazy. And then, after years of being gaslit and lied to, well, wouldn't you know it, one of my family members got drunk. And they told me that they were there. That they were there. And they knew. But they thought that, that we were all just playing around. So this has happened to me. And I don't make this about me. But, these things are real. And they do happen. And they do cause a lot of harm. And it is incredibly cruel to make someone think that they're crazy because of a built-in thing in the brain that's there to protect us. Don't you think that that's incredibly cruel? I think that that built-in mechanism is beautiful. It is. It is truly beautiful. Because children deserve to be protected. And so their bodies, when they're in an unsafe environment, do that naturally. So how fucking dare you? How fucking dare you not acknowledge, not be willing to discuss? Excuse my language, guys, I'm so sorry. But how dare you refuse to talk about this? Because again, this has not been about me at all. But I've just kind of gotten to the point, and I don't know what it was today, that it just clicked. I think it was opening up just the front of McGowan's book. Because I have my little bookmark, But being reminded that it is for all of the survivors, not just the ones that you think count. Because who the hell are you? You're not the arbiter of truth. And you're just not. And you never will be. Because we each get to look at the information that's available and decide what's true. And I am one of those survivors. And you don't get to tell me that that's not true. But what you could tell me, and I doubt that you will, is why you won't talk about this. Because I'm going to keep coming on and talking about it. I'm not going to talk about me. I just kind of got to a point today because I saw that and I'm such a fan of his. And I'm like, you know what? That's why I do it too. Not for me, but reading his words. He is including me. And I think that that's very beautiful. And I appreciate it very much because at least someone is willing to make a record of this stain that this has been. I don't care if they're your heroes. I don't care if you racked up a ton of student debt. Quite frankly, I don't think that you did. None of you. I don't think that anyone was short for any money, quite frankly. I think this whole situation's quite weird. And at this point, I don't care. Come and get me. Come and get me. I don't care. I really don't. I've been talking about this stuff on Instagram for months. So come and get me. I'm not scared. I do not fear man. And again, I know that I am doing an honorable and noble thing because we are supposed to protect the most innocent and defenseless among us. And that's children. So you guys need to start speaking out and answering about this stuff. because I'm just going to get to a point where I'm not going to mince my words anymore. And I've said that a million times, but I think that I do continue to mince them because I'm trying to be patient and nice. But then Dave reminded me today that it's me too. That I'm a survivor too. And I've been called crazy for it too, by my own family. And that I was lied to. And that all it took was someone having a little too many drinks to let me know that they saw it. And I was never crazy. And no matter how much apologizing, they can never change the harm that was done. And the problems, I'm not blaming my problems on that. I'm just saying in general, the problems that it has caused me personally in coping with it. So I don't really think that I have any more to say. I'm sorry for crying. I hope that I didn't lose the plot in talking about myself, because that's never what I want to do, ever. Because it's not about me. It is about these people being looked at with a critical eye. Because they have to be. And they do. They have to be. Because these people are criminals. And they're child abusers. They're pedophile sympathizers. And they haven't gone away. There's still people out here talking about this and practicing this. And it needs to stop. It has to stop. Children have to stop being the casualty of the indifference of adults.